Today is Monday, June 24th, 2019. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, D.C. Metro officers caught on tape tasing a black man because he looked like he wanted to fight cops. Actually, what he was doing, he was really defending three juveniles who were being detained. Wait until we show you this video. Also, South Bend Mayor presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg takes heat at a town hall meeting because of police brutality after a black man was shot and killed by cops and the body cameras were not working. Clarence Thomas, the only African American on the Supreme Court, literally thinks it's okay to remove black jurors. Really? Wait until you hear Sonia Sotomayor basically correcting him and jacking him up. So, mate, thank God we have this sister on the court because Clarence Thomas has no idea what the hell he's doing. White supremacist responsible for the Charlottesville, Virginia attack killed Heather Heyer. Y'all, he wants mercy. Seems prison is too tough for him. Get over it. Also, Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina had his huge annual fish fry over the weekend. It was the hot ticket for 21 Democratic presidential candidates. We'll hear my interview with him on the Tom Jordan Morning Show and break down this week's debate with our Radio Talkers panel. Plus, Tyler Perry talks about owning your stuff at the BET Awards and also tributes to two African-American pioneers who passed away this weekend. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Every week seems we have another video of white cops in an altercation with African-American men. This time, Washington, D.C. A black man approached police officers at a D.C. metro stop to find out why two black boys were being held. Well, this video, folks, spread like wildfire all across the internet and social media this weekend. It is a stunning video, so we want to warn you in advance if you are triggered by any of these videos to simply turn away. And so when we play this, you'll see what we talk about. I'm going to come back and talk about this with my Radio Talkers panel. So here is this video that has gotten more than 1 million views all across social media. It took place this weekend in Washington, D.C.
My name is Shamir. You mind if I stay here with you for a little bit? Because I want to make sure that y'all brothers taken care of, okay? I'm not putting you on camera at all. I'm not putting you on camera at all. I just want to make sure that y'all all right? Because I see them looking at y'all, and what I'm not about to do is have none of y'all get hurt right now, all right? So my name is Shamir. We're going to stay right here, and we're going to make sure that everybody's taken care of, okay? What I don't want is one of these colonizers trying to get on y'all about some shit, because then I'm going to have to go off, and I ain't got my nails done, all right? So we're going to calm down real quick. All right. Hold on. Whoa. He's all right. Hold on. He's all right. Hey. Get the baby. Chill. Not necessary. Just get down. Yo, not necessary. That is not necessary. He's not even resistant. He is okay. Stop. Yo, I'm right here. Y'all need to stop. He's not even stop. Just lay down. Stop, babe. Stop.
He's being tased.
Stop. Yo, let him the fuck go. He's all right. He's down. He can't fucking move. He's down. Leave him alone. He is down.
In a statement, the Metro Transit Police Department explained that the incident report says the stunning officer deployed the taser because the unidentified child advocate interfered with the investigation and looked as if he was getting ready to fight the cop. Because of social media outrage, Metro Transit Police have opened an investigation. Now, I'm going to do this here. So I'm going to play the video again because now you hear their explanation. Now, with that explanation being said, I now want you to see exactly what the brother was doing. Re-rack it, press play.
My name is Clyburn. You mind if I stay here with you for a little bit? Because I want to make sure that y'all brothers taken care of, okay? I'm not putting you on camera at all. I'm not putting you on camera at all. I just want to make sure that y'all all right, all right? Because I see them looking at y'all, and what I'm not about to do is have none of y'all get hurt right here, all right? So my name is Shamir. We're going to stay right here, and we're going to make sure that everybody's taken care of, okay? What I don't want is one of these colonizers trying to get on y'all about some shit, because then I'm going to have to go off, and I ain't got my nails done, all right? So we're going to calm down real quick. All right. Hold on. Whoa. He's all right. He's all right. Hold on. He's all right. Hey. Get the baby. Chill.
Okay. Now, we're going to play that again for you because this is what happens when cops lie, okay? You see the brother talking to, so there's a barrier. He's talking to the officer across the bench. All of a sudden, a very aggressive police officer, K9 unit on his back, comes up to the brother. You can tell how he walks up to him in a very aggressive stance. Okay, I want you to play the video, turn the audio down. I'll talk over it. Okay? So go ahead and play the video, pull audio down. Now, I want you to go back to the beginning. Okay? Because, see, this is what happens. Okay, read back the video and go back to the beginning. Go back further. Okay, here we go. Now, you see, the brother is standing there. He's talking. No issues there. All of a sudden, right now, I want you to pause it. You see, they're talking to the officer. The officer is checking on the young man. Press play. You see that? He passed the guy on his shoulder. They're talking. Everybody is calm. Nobody is yelling. Nobody is pushing. And he's sitting. Stop right here. Stop. So all of a sudden, you see this cop who walks up, who has not been a part of the conversation, leave the video right there, not been a part of the conversation. He walks up and immediately puts his hand on his brother. Press play. Now you see him. He's now pushing the brother. The brother's pretty much like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you coming up to me? Shoves him in his chest twice. The brother pushes his arm away. Cop has his taser out. Now he's ready. Boom, he tases him. And the brother's taking the voltage like it was no big deal. And so he tases him again. Then the other officer comes from around the side and they take him down. Folks, this is what happens when cops lie. The only reason we can say what happened because this sister was actually videotaping it. And also, I keep telling you all the time, here's why I talk about the video, why I want you to record the video horizontal, because that way we can see the entire video, everything in the frame, and it fills the whole screen up. That's why people, please don't shoot any of these videos vertical, shoot all of them horizontal so we can see everything in the frame. But bottom line is we caught exactly what took place right there. Let's go to my Radio Talkers panel, all via Skype. Mildred Gaddis, she is the host of the Mildred Gaddis Show out of Detroit. Also joining me is Mo Kelly, host of the Mo Kelly Show out of Los Angeles. And joining us a little bit later is going to be Karen Hunter, the host of the Karen Hunter Show on Sirius XM Radio. She just got off of the air, so once she joins us, we'll be ready to roll with her. I'm going to start with you, Mo. Looking at this video, these cops are lying. These cops are flat out lying. That brother was not aggressive. It wasn't until this cop with the K9 unit vest on comes up, shoves him in his chest. He provoked the altercation. Everybody was calm. That officer did not de-escalate. He escalated the whole situation.
Well, you said a lot of what was obvious. There was not only a barrier in between the police officers and the gentleman who was talking, it was a third officer who started the physical altercation. And that's the most important point, because it's always the point of engagement in which things go awry. There was a calm conversation, and then the third officer felt it was his duty, I guess, to end the conversation, and then escalate it into a confrontation, and then we saw what happened. What bothers me the most is, if not for the video, we might have someone who was much more hurt or harmed. And black folks have been talking about this since the beginning of time. This is not new. The only thing new is our willingness to put it on tape and show all of America what we've been talking about for decades now, if not a century.
Mildred, these are lying cops. That's what we have here. And the folks with the Metro Transit should stop trying to defend the officer. Everything was fine until this cop comes, who don't have his name yet. He comes into the frame immediately. And here's what's amazing, Mildred. He doesn't walk up to say, hey, what's going on here? No, he literally walks up and immediately puts his hands on the brother, provoking the altercation.
You know, when I saw this, I became, once again, I'm still reeling from what we saw out in Vegas last week. There seems to be, in all of these departments across the country, a group of white males who have this innate hatred and disdain for black males. And given the opportunity, or given any opportunity, they will launch on them. This is what we see here. Totally inappropriate. And because of these negotiations, these union negotiated deals with these particular entities that these men are policing, they're not ready to immediately move them. But there should be such a huge outcry. And thank God for the woman who had the telephone, the sister who wasn't afraid, who was just not going to stand there and let that happen without there being video to show to the world and to give some comfort to this young man. These experiences for a young person, we know it for anyone, but especially for a young man, he will be carrying this with him for the rest of his life. And it's totally unacceptable.
Mo, the brother in this video should file assault charges against that cop. Because,
absolutely,
because the officer literally walks. First of all, let's just go through here. The brother in the video, he was not being detained. He was not arrested. The officer immediately walks up to him and puts his hands on him. I don't care who you are. You as an officer do not have the right to physically touch this man when he has not committed a crime. He was simply communicating about these two juveniles. I'm telling you, I don't know who these brothers, I don't know his name, but he should file assault charges against the cop and dare the DA to indict that cop.
The biggest tell was the other two officers who were not responding in an adversarial way. If they perceived him as a threat, they would have either asked him to back up, which they did not do. They would have extended their hands to tell him to move back, which they did not, or they would have engaged them on their own. There were two officers there. There was not a need for a third officer to intervene, if you will, and escalate the situation. And beyond that, yes, the third officer was the one who started the physical confrontation. And if not for the camera, I cannot say that's enough. It might have gone to something which was fatal in nature. And I went to school in Washington, D.C. There's always a police presence in that metro area. It was not necessary, but we're always policed in a different way. They engage us in a different way. It's with hostility and the assumption of criminality.
This is why body cameras are critically important. Unfortunately, in South Bend, Indiana, we do not have the body camera video of a police officer who shot and killed a black man in that city last week. South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who is running for the Democratic presidential nomination, he has been dealing with this issue for an entire week. He held a town hall meeting on Sunday that turned into a shouting match.
Reorganize your department by Friday of next week. And based on data, get the racists off the streets. It's disrespectful that I wake up every day scared. It's disrespectful that I have 3 boys that I have to teach today what to do. Get them off the streets.
If anyone who is on patrol is shown to be a racist or to do something racist in a way that is substantiated, that is their last day on the street. I believe you have described a specific tool that can be used in order to identify indications of racism. It is not familiar to me, and so I thank you for bringing it up, and I will research it right away.
How are there all these loopholes, right? Like, oh, it's at the officer's discretion if the cameras turn on, turn off, headlights got to be on, they have to flip a switch, all this stuff, right? And then it's like, well, maybe they could, maybe if it's bad enough, yeah, they could record the situation. Why wasn't it already mandatory in the policy that you record every interaction with citizens? It makes no sense.
The policy was approved by the Board of Safety. I do not know who drafted it, but I believe that it was drawn from model policies from around the country.
So it was copy and paste, right?
Per the general order. My view is that under the current policy, when an officer on a call encounters a civilian, the camera should be activated. The effort to recruit more minority officers to the police department and the effort to introduce body cameras have not succeeded, and I accept responsibility for that. We have tried but not succeeded to increase diversity in the police department, and we need help.
Karen Hunter, you're joining us now. You just finished your radio show. Here you got a guy who's running for president of the United States. He stands up and he's talking about, how, the cameras didn't work and how, we haven't had diversity. Here's the reality. 2014, just 5 years ago, there were 26 black officers on the South Bend, Indiana Police Department. That's about 10% out of 253 officers. Today, 5 years later, just 13. That means 88% white officers, 5% black. I'm just trying to understand, how can Buttigieg want to be president of the United States, want to be the Democratic nominee for president of the United States, and he can't even get black officers on a police force of 150,000 and don't even have body cameras that work?
Yeah. So it was troubling. Today on the show, I actually canceled Pete Buttigieg as being qualified to be president of these United States. South Bend is such a small city, and if he can't control such a small city, how can he control this nation? But there's a larger question. Why are we constantly having to ask people to do the right thing? Why are we constantly begging people to do what is right? And I feel like in many ways, the power that we actually have, we're not exercising. I'm tired of us looking at these stuff videos, and I'm tired of us showing up to town halls and begging people to do the right thing when we have the power to make them. And I'm not saying, physically, I'm saying that we have the political might to start doing that.
I'm going to go to Mildred Gaddis here. Mildred, what is...
Are you getting...
Yeah, you're breaking up there, Karen. You're breaking up. So
my Skype sucks, right?
Yeah, you're breaking up there. So, Jackie, if y'all can let me know, we can get that taken care of. I'm going to go to Mildred Gaddis right now. Mildred, what is interesting here is Buttigieg came off of the campaign trail to deal with the issues that were taking place in South Bend. But the reality is they failed. They failed in the city. You're also dealing with a city that has not resolved the issue of a black police chief who was fired, he says, because he was confronting racism in the police department. All of these people, Hollywood is just falling head over heels for Pete Buttigieg. You've got folks, a lot of the folks who are supporting Obama, who are trying to raise money for him. All of a sudden, now we are looking at a reality where this could very well be an issue come in this week's debates, and he has to address this, the killing of a black man, but also how in the hell you don't have working body cameras in a city of just 253 police officers?
What I've noticed, Roland, in these situations, police departments that already have the body cameras, police officers, for some reason, are being allowed to not turn them on, or the department is choosing not to show what has been recorded. It makes absolutely no sense. The body cameras cost a lot of money. resources going to ensure that all officers have them? And for them to wear them and not turn them on, one has to ask the question, why are they not turning them on? But you know something, Roland? There's something going on in America. I want to talk about what's going on with us. You know, we have these people elected to office. We have these people on city councils across this country, in state legislatures, and even in the nation, in the U.S. Congress. And there has not been a voice, a criticism as loud as it needs to be about the murdering of these unarmed black men in this country and the abuse by police officers of other people, now men and women. What's going on? Why are we not hearing from all corners of this country, of our society, people who claim to represent us? And I know that everybody elected is not a leader. I think that's quite evident because we're sitting here talking, and I'm mentioning the fact that we're not hearing. We're not hearing from these women's organizations, the men organizations, the elected officials, and even the pulpit. I think we have a responsibility to let folk know that they're out of order. And if they remain out of order, what the consequences are going to be.
Also, Mo, it was interesting. I want Mo, you and Karen to speak to this. We saw massive resistance during the latter years of the Obama presidency as a result of Black Lives Matter. We saw folks taken to the streets. We saw protests all across the country. I haven't actually seen that level of taking to the streets since Trump was elected. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but I think there's a problem with the methodology. And I think this younger generation, not to cast aspersion, but to be honest, they missed some of the lessons of the civil rights era, where it was not about just marching and demonstrations and sit-ins. There was a legislative agenda attached. And I don't want people to fall for the okie doke in regard to Mayor Pete Buttigieg. He was trying to talk about racism, whether he could prove it was racism. And that's a false idea. That's a false choice. We don't need to prove racism. We just need to be focused on illegality. That was an unlawful police moment. And if we have the legislation which mandates for officers to always have their body cam on, at the minimum, the police department would be liable, or there is some sort of legislative remedy which is available after the fact. But the town halls, the demonstrations, well-intentioned, and they get a lot of press coverage, they're not changing laws in the way that the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and the Fair Housing Act did decades before.
Well, first of all, I'll push back a little bit there, Karen. First of all, there were a number of people who were involved in that. When you look at black,
that was Mo, not me.
No. I know that was Mo, but I'm going to you. So I got it. Just hold on. What I'm saying is, I'm gonna push back against Mo on that. But Karen, once you address this, we did see that. We saw folks like Brittany Packnett and many others, New York Justice League and others, targeting laws on the state as well as the congressional level. And so that did happen. There should have been more, absolutely, but it did happen. But what's still interesting to me, Karen, is I have not seen the mass mobilization in the last 2.5 years. I don't know about you. When was the last time you saw DeRay's blue vest leading a protest? When have you seen?
Moved on.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, but it's really interesting that Trump's been in the White House, and literally, what happened? Where did folks go?
I think there's two things. Fatigue is number one, but number two, there's a tech space that we're not considering, and I'm not sure how effective all of that going to the streets even mattered. In Ferguson, for example, where people were in the streets rioting, what was the turnout, the voter turnout, just after Mike Brown was murdered? What was the turnout? 13, 16%? So what effectiveness? And I want to piggyback on the consequences that was spoken about before Mo. And that was what I was saying before. There are no consequences to this behavior. Body cams aren't the answer. That's not going to change the ideology. That's not going to change the mentality. That's not going to change the hatred or the terrorism. We've seen people shot in the back on camera, and folks still didn't get convicted. There was a hung jury in that particular case. Slager later went on to get convicted. But we've been watching people be brutalized on camera since Rodney King. Cameras are not the answer. There's a humanity issue, and there's a consequence issue, because people get to kill us indiscriminately and beat us indiscriminately, and nothing is getting done. There's no recourse.
Mildred, first of all, we have seen legislation. and I'll push back on Karen on this. We have seen, like, for instance, I remember one of the bills by Congressman Bobby Scott. It was the protest in the streets where Democrats said, yo, y'all might want to go along and support this particular bill in terms of holding police accountable, in terms of even counting shootings and fatal shootings dealing with police departments. It actually was passed, signed into law. But still, what is interesting to me is the mass public pressure. Mildred, we've seen Hong Kong, where they had an extradition policy and they were going to implement 2 million people went to the streets, mass mobilization, and they pulled that back. And what happens with mobilization, people see that, they respond to it, but you have, of course, a plan of action, as to Mo's point earlier, after the march. I'm just wondering, again, where, with this case here, with Buttigieg, and I'll go ahead and put it out there, and I don't care. Okay, where's Reverend Al Sharpton? Okay, where are folks, external folks with large platforms going to South Bend and saying we're here to help you elevate this here? The video we showed at the top of the show, the brother here in D.C., where are national leaders? I mean, we showed videos last week, same thing. It's as if Trump gets elected and folks just all of a sudden said, okay, we're not going to do anything. Mildred and Mo.
You know what? You're absolutely right. And I want to be very clear on that. It was going into the street and marching and protesting that helped us accomplish our goals in the civil rights movement. We were also very well equipped in terms of the strategy and what we were going to do after the march. I don't ever want to give up that privilege. And I'll tell you something else. I want to I want us to have the video and not need it than to need the video and not have it. The visuals are very compelling, and we know that this thing is not going to be accomplished overnight. But let's not, I disagree with Karen. Respectfully, let me say, the body cams are necessary, and they ought to be wearing them, and certainly they should be on.
I think, Mo, and I'll say this here, I think it's wrong for anybody to think that body cameras are the solution. They are a part of the solution. Mo, go ahead.
You beat me there. It's not an either-or proposition. It's probably both and. We need the legislative enforcement provision, harking back to the Voting Rights Act. We need to make sure that we have the body cams because the video is compelling. And I know that more people would be getting away with murder, not even Michael Slager, if we didn't have the video. It's not going to convict everyone, but if it convicts someone, then I'm all for it. And then after that, yes, we have to make sure we do actually vote, not only for policies and procedures, but for actual people. Going back to Mayor Pete Buttigieg, I know black people are concerned because historically with the Democratic Party, people are chosen for us, but not necessarily by us. And Pete Buttigieg is the latest example. He's going to go through hell in this debate because of African Americans. And I think Pete has forgotten that the base of the Democratic Party in 2019 is black women, emphasis on black. So until Pete comes to terms with that, and realizes that, and we hold him accountable for that, then Pete gets away with this and saying these things at town halls, which are not indicative of the truth, and they are disrespectful to us as a community.
You brought something up there, and I want to go to Karen and Mildred, then come back to Mo on this. I think we are making a mistake when we keep saying that the base of the Democratic Party is black women. Here's why. Okay, in Alabama, all the focus was on black women. About 94% of black men also voted for Doug Jones. The reality is, if you look at the numbers, black women voted the highest for Hillary Clinton. The second highest group that voted for Hillary Clinton was black men. And I think it's a mistake for candidates to ignore black men. I've talked to people on the campaigns of Booker, Harris, Warren, and Biden. And I said, y'all need to have a black men only town hall. I said, go to one of these cities and because here's the deal. There was a 9-point gap, Karen, between black men who voted for Obama and Romney. It was a 9-point gap between the percentage of black women who voted for Obama versus Romney and black men. 9 points less for black men in 2012. In 2016, it was even low, it was even a wider gap than that. Something is happening here where black men are not seeing these issues the same way as black women. I just think that, again, the mistake is that black men are still voting overwhelmingly Democrat, and it's wrong to leave them out of these conversations, Karen.
You're spot on. Absolutely. I think having a black men only town hall, because the issues are different, but let's not mistake it. You know, when we look at Stacey Abrams and the work that she did with Higher Heights and other organizations to mobilize voter registration, and it's usually black women leading that push,
right,
and black men coming along behind them. But no, you're absolutely right. We cannot ignore anybody in this election cycle. And let me just be clear about this. I wasn't discounting body cams, but I don't think body cams are getting us, any more justice than we've ever had. I think we need to start looking at this thing differently and using tech more, et cetera. But I think you're spot on with getting black men involved in the issues that are affecting them. And they're different than the ones that are affecting black women. And I do think it's a mistake treating us like monoliths.
Modric?
First of all, I think one of the greatest untold stories in America has to do with how black women carried the civil rights movement, the tremendous work they did. They didn't do it alone.
Very true.
But and it's an untold story.
Very true.
And secondly, there really are more of us than there are of you all. and that's not to be negative, but the lesson here, and I told my audience in Detroit, is that we need to look at what black women in Alabama and Georgia did. They delivered. They didn't deliver at the expense of black men. They didn't deliver without black men. But they worked it and delivered in a way that we have not seen in a very, very long time.
Right. All I'm saying, though, is the mistake. But here's, follow me here. And I've seen this with candidates. What I'm saying is this here, and I've said this to Tom Perez. Common sense says, if there was a 9-point gap between black men and black women for Obama and Romney, and there was a larger gap between black men and black women when it came to Hillary and Trump, I said, y'all got a black male problem. I said, now here's the deal. You can't afford, if you're a Democrat, you can't afford for 82% of black men supporting a Democratic candidate. You need that number to be like black women, 90, 92, 94%. Now, I don't know specifically why. Now I do believe that, and I do know for a fact there were black men who were like, I'm not going to vote for a woman, and brothers just like some white men who I talked to in the campaign need to get the hell over that. Somehow, as if a woman can't be president. But what I'm saying though is when you keep hearing it over and over and over again, Mo, black women, black women, black women. What I'm saying is there's a gap on this side, and you might want to pay attention to it, because you can go hard for black women and get that number to be 94, 95, 96. But if the black male number is 86, 84, 82, 80, that actually cancels out the increase, Mo, of black women.
I get the math, and I can't necessarily disagree or dispute the math, but I would offer this. I think we get too bogged down in trying to relitigate 2016, what the Democrats should have done, could have done, might have done, or need to do differently in 2020. Let's not forget about this math as well. Donald Trump won by basically 80,000 votes across 3 or 4 states. If we rearrange that, we're not having any of these discussions, and the Democratic Party is just going to just move forward as it wanted to. So, but it can't be denied that the energy is coming from specifically black women. It's already been said. If we talk about what happened in Alabama, if we talked about what happened in Georgia, if we talk about Stacey Abrams, who was chosen to give the Democratic response to the State of the Union, it says to everyone, not even in this conversation, that the Democratic Party has chosen black women to lead us into the future. And I'm saying it's okay with me, and I think the numbers long-term will bear it out.
And I'll leave it with this. Henry, go to my iPad here. Exit polls here. 98% of black women in Alabama voted for Doug Jones. Black women made up 17% of all voters. Black men made up 11% of all voters. 93% voted for Doug Jones. All I'm saying is, if you're trying to make an argument, you better focus on both and not leave out one, because every vote is going to matter if they want to send Donald Trump packing to Trump Tower or Mar-a-Lago, where in the hell he's going to go to. All right, let's go to our next story, folks. Justice Clarence Thomas has always shown he really doesn't give a damn about black folks. Well, check this out. So last week, the Supreme Court handed down a decision that struck down a case out of Mississippi where a white DA consistently used preemptory challenges to remove black jurors. Well, Clarence Thomas pretty much argued that it's okay to kick black people off of juries. And the case was Flower versus Mississippi, and Curtis Flowers was going to have to be tried again because the prosecutor, again, kept excluding black jurors. And he kept getting knocked down by the courts, and he kept going back and doing it over and over and over again. 6 previous trials, okay? 41 out of the 42 black folks removed from the jury. Now, the Supreme Court released the audio recording of the oral arguments. Clarence Thomas rarely ever asked questions. All of a sudden, he woke up and decided to ask a question, and it was Justice Sonia Sotomayor who basically had to smack him down with facts. Press play.
Ms. Johnson, would you kind enough tell me whether or not you exercised any peremptories?
I was not the trial lawyer.
Well, were any peremptories exercised by the defendant?
They were.
And what was the race of the jurors struck there?
She only exercised peremptories against white jurors. But I would add that her motivation is not the question here. The question is the motivation of Doug Evans.
She didn't have any black jurors to exercise peremptories against, except the first one.
Except the first one.
But so did the prosecutor accept that one.
Correct.
After that, every black juror that was available on the panel was struck.
Yes, he struck one. He seated one African-American juror, and at the very end, struck one white juror. When all of the evidence in this case is considered, just as in Foster versus Chapman, the conclusion that race was a substantial part of Evans' motivation is inescapable, and the Mississippi Supreme Court's conclusion to the contrary is clearly erroneous.
Thank you, counsel. The case is submitted.
Mr. Gaddis, you gotta love that. Clarence Thomas like, well, did the DA, the defense strike any black jurors? They were like, no, because the white prosecutor struck all the black people, so there was no black people left.
You know what? There's an old saying: if there's no enemy within, the enemy without can do us no harm. Clarence Thomas has consistently demonstrated nothing but disdain and passionate disrespect for black people. It is I don't think I need to say anything else. I know it's an unfiltered show, but it might not be very nice.
No, you can go ahead and say that's what's unfiltered. Mo Kelly, again. I mean, Clarence Thomas, his opinion pretty much was, yeah, go ahead, remove the black people. It's okay.
Clarence Thomas has been, if he's been anything, he's been consistent. He has always and consistently sided against African Americans, and that's part of the reason why he's on the court. He was to replace Thurgood Marshall, but also be the antithetical to Thurgood Marshall. He only has something to say. He only has some legal opinion to offer when it has to do with black folks. And this is something we said we shouldn't relitigate 2016, but we have to reinforce what 2016 meant. A lot of folks had this false impression that there was just a choice of either Hillary or Donald Trump, and we got sucked into that as a community. So we started voting for Jill Stein or Bernie Sanders and losing sight of the fact that there were 2 Supreme Court justices at stake, hundreds, if not thousands of federal judges at stake. And this is proof positive why we need to make sure that our community is educated to understand we're not just voting for a president in 2020. We're voting for people like Clarence Thomas, who may be there for the next 30, 40 years.
Karen, it wasn't a shock when I saw this decision 7-2 that Clarence Thomas was one of the 2.
Of course not. And I want to bang Mo's gong because that's what I was saying during 2016. Hillary Clinton could be a convicted pedophile. Not really, but I was going to vote for her because it was not about Hillary Clinton. It was about the courts. And next 2020 is about the courts. We're seeing it now with this dismantling of Roe v. Wade, and they have a very strategic thing, which is what you're talking about, Roland, with even the men, focusing on the men. It's strategy. They start with the lower courts, They pack the upper courts, And it just keeps going. And if we're not sophisticated, look, I don't care who is the nominee, even if it's Pete Buttigieg, I'm voting for him in 2020 because it's that important.
All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. Going to go to a break. We come back. We're going to talk South Carolina fish fry with Congressman Jim Clyburn. Of course, he entertained 21 other Democratic candidates that are getting ready for their big debate, the first one this week in Miami. And also, another damn Democrat jumped in a race. We're now up to 25. Really? Jesus. We'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered, just a moment. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. All right, folks, they're back. MarijuanaStock.org has another great investment opportunity. If you were lucky enough to invest in their last crowdfunding campaign, you know they raised a bunch of money in just a few months investing in legal marijuana farms. Those initial investors now own shares of a publicly traded company. And, of course, again, a lot of y'all sent me emails saying, how can I get involved? Well, guess what? Now they have a new investment opportunity that is as good, if not even better than the last one. I'm talking about industrial hemp CBD. For those who don't know, the hemp plant is the cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD, which means hemp CBD gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the U.S. and heavily regulated by the DEA. But the 2018 Farm Bill changed all of that, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the United States and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow all of the plants, and this makes for an incredible investment opportunity. And that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. You can invest in the crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200 up to $10,000. Now, all you got to do is go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org to get in the game. You should do it now. Folks, over the weekend, all the Democratic candidates were in South Carolina, 21 of them, basically bowing down to the only African-American on the Democratic side in the South Carolina delegation, Congressman Jim Clyburn, the highest-ranking African-American in the House Democratic Caucus. He held his world-famous fish fry in his hometown of Columbia, South Carolina on Friday. 19 of the 21 candidates attended and spoke on stage. This morning on the Tom Joyner Morning Show, I talked with Congressman Clyburn about the event. So, Congressman, they were all there. Anybody stand out? Anybody who really stood out this weekend?
I think Kamala Harris is, from what I heard, from reactors, people thought she did very, very well. I don't think anybody did themselves any real harm. Inslee impressed a lot of people. So I think that it was a very interesting weekend. People were very collegial to each other.
Very.
I was very impressed. Very impressed.
Well, Congressman, you also did an interview last week where you said you were surprised that Senator Kamala Harris and Senator Cory Booker are not doing better in South Carolina. Of course, they're lagging behind Vice President Joe Biden, Senator Bernie Sanders. Do you think they're the only two African Americans in the race, including the brother out of Florida? But do you believe that it's because they are relatively new compared to those two in terms of name ID? Do you believe that they'll actually increase their black support and overall support in your home state?
Well, I think there's a little bit of it. Also, I've always told people African American voters are pretty much faith voters. So much of what we do, our civil rights activities, came out of the church. Our political activities came out of the church. In the early Congress people, black Congress people, before I got elected back in the post-Reconstruction era, a lot of them were church leaders. One of us even was AME Bishop, Richard Kane. So when you look at this, they tend to go with faith issues. I want to see your deeds. I need hear your words. And so I think that the deeds versus words, I think that means a whole lot to African-American voters. I happen to have been born and raised in the Parsonage, so I know a little bit about that thought process. And so I think that that's what they're up against.
Also, Congressman, you were... All right, so now, Senator Kamala Harris, she made quite an entrance to that fish fry. She, I guess she was trying to channel Beyonce in Homecoming, huh? Mildred, I'm disappointed not to see Senator Kamala Harris do an AKA stroll.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And it was challenging trying to understand what Clyburn was saying. So what's your question to me?
Well, first, again, I'm just joking there, of course, with Senator Kamala Harris and being an AKA. But I do believe that what Clyburn is saying is absolutely correct. Look, you're not going to get, and I'm going to go back. I said this by the third year of Obama. I said, if you're the next black person running for president, trust me, you're not going to get the same runway as Obama did. And I think that's what we're seeing with Senator Kamala Harris, and we're seeing that with Senator Cory Booker. I think black voters, Mildred, are extremely smart, and they're saying we want to see Trump gone, and we're going to support earlier right now the person who we think has the best shot to move Trump out.
I think you're absolutely right. But I think the Democratic Party has a greater issue here. And that is when you have 20 to 25 people talking about they're going to seek the office of the highest office of the land, it tells you something about the party. If the party was cohesive and strong as it should be if it wants to defeat its opponent, you wouldn't have 25 people jumping in and weighing in. Some of this is sheer foolishness. I think we all know that, but I also think it's very damaging. What happens down the road, the closer we get to getting serious about this election? We should be getting serious about it now, but the Democrats don't seem to be doing that.
Mo Kelly, 2004, there were two African Americans who ran for president. One, former Senator Kara Mosley Braun. The other was Reverend Al Sharpton. I kept telling everybody then, trust me, Mosley Braun and Sharpton are going to have no role whatsoever in South Carolina. Folks were betting me saying, oh, no, Sharpton is going to win South Carolina. I said, you have lost your mind. I think what we're seeing here, we're seeing black voters in South Carolina say, this man is evil. We want him out. We like y'all, but we think the two of you are not as strong compared to the resume of Vice President Joe Biden as well as Senator Bernie Sanders. And I think that's why you're seeing these early poll numbers where you don't see, we're in South Carolina where nearly half of all voters are African American. They're not flocking to the two black major candidates. You, of course, have Wayne Messam, who's the mayor out of Florida, who has no impact on this race whatsoever. Sorry. Go ahead. And look, he's my frat brother, but sorry, he ain't got no impact on it. Go right ahead, Mo.
Well, there are a couple things. There's some competing interests here. I would say black folks generally, we have this ideological purity test. We want to make sure that they're black enough or blacker than thou. That's one thing. And we're also trying to compete with the idea. Let's not forget, it took black folks to warm up to Barack Obama. He gave the speech at the Democratic National Convention in 2004. People didn't even know about him really until 2008. And the prevailing question was, is he black enough? That, I think, is coming is part of this. And also, not everyone's running for president. Some of these folks are running so they can get a syndicated radio show like Herman Cain did or Mike Huckabee did. They're running hopefully to be considered for the VP portion of the ticket, or they're running for a cabinet position. They're running possibly for 4 years and 8 years from now. And I believe half this field will be whittled away, black folks and white folks, before we even get to Iowa. So to push back against Mildred just a little bit, I don't think it hurts the party. The natural course of things, it will work itself out. But as far as like Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, they have an uphill battle for your point, what you said. They're not going to be as quickly. We're not going to be as quick to cling to them because they're black. And we do want Trump out of office. But also we still have this issue of having this purity test to make sure that they are black first and will take care of us first before they take care of everyone else. And that's a push-pull, and it's competing against each other, but it will work itself out in the way that it did with Obama.
Karen, for all the folks who say black folks vote black, no.
Well, so here's the thing. Comparing Kamala Harris and Cory Booker to Barack Obama is like comparing apples to pencils.
Why?
Barack Obama was special. Barack Obama was special.
How?
And yeah, because he was a special candidate.
How?
It was how? Because he was special. There's a magical thing about Barack Obama that neither one of those candidates have. And it's not something that's tangible. And if we're being honest, to Mo's point, it wasn't until Barack Obama won Iowa that black people jumped on the bandwagon, including some people that we know, famous civil rights leaders, were on Hillary's ticket until Barack Obama won white people in Iowa. So yeah, they're a little bit different, and that purity test should be for everybody, not just black candidates. What are you going to do for black America?
Right.
What are you going to do for us?
But
should be the question for all of these candidates,
but
black or white.
But that's why but I think that it is proving the point that black people black people are very smart in making determination as to who they're going to support. So for all the people who say, they voted because they were black, it's like, no. Black folks make calculated decisions just like they did in 1988, 84, and 88 when Reverend Jackson ran. In 84, there were a lot of people who said, I'm sorry, Reverend, you can't win. We're supporting Mondale. In 1988, you can't win. We're supporting Dukakis. That existed, and I'm using 2004 as an example as well. And so I think it's going to be, look, if the reality is if you're Senator Kamala Harris and you're Senator Cory Booker, you desperately need a win in South Carolina and not second place. All right, folks, we're going to go to our next story that is quite interesting here, and that is in Charlottesville. Remember the white supremacist who killed Heather Heyer, ran her over with the car, injured dozens of others? Well, James Alex Fields Jr., y'all, is begging the judge responsible for his sentencing to show him some mercy. Yes, this is real. His legal team believes that the 22-year-old should not spend the rest of his life in prison due to his age, his traumatic childhood, and his history of mental illness. Oh, the white privilege, Mo.
Well, look at it this way. He wants to have leniency, and he wants to have his sentence shortened, but all he did was shorten the life of Heather Heyer. Let's not overthink this. Bye, Felicia. The sooner you're gone, the happier I'm going to be. And let's get it on. Let's get on with it. Because at this point, we have this fundamental, as a country, we want to allow grace for folks who are not like us. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. He committed murder. It was premeditated. Let him have life in prison without parole.
Karen, I just love these white boys who get in trouble and they go, Judge, they're so young. They have so many years ahead of them. I mean, the swimmer in Stanford, I think it was in Minnesota, where a young kid was raped. And it's like, well, this person, he's only 20. Has a lot more years ahead of him. But if you could be 18, guess what? Your ass committed a crime when you're a juvenile. Life.
Right. Well, we know that this is an unjust system when we talk about the Scottsboro boys and a host of others. And then don't forget the kid that had affluenza who actually killed some people while behind the wheel of a car and claimed that his parents gave him too much privilege. And the judge said, oh, you know what? You're right. But this is the problem when we don't have people in juries and sitting on the bench who understand our plight, who understand who we are. And as far as this guy, I don't even know why we're having this conversation. I mean, Dylan Roof, it's one thing for the families to forgive him, but he was sentenced to death, which is what, might be appropriate for that crime in Charleston, South Carolina. And Heather Heyer, every time you play that video, it just makes my heart sink to know that this guy has the audacity to open his mouth and ask for mercy when he had none, when he plowed into all of those human beings.
Mildred, he's having a tough time, Mildred.
Hang him high. I'm serious about that. There's only one response to this. This individual was mentally fit enough to decide to prematurely decide what he was going to do. He orchestrated it. He was very clear prior to that, to the incident, telling the world who he was. and how much he hated people of color. So there is no leniency. We just need to watch what this judge does.
Bottom line is here, boy, sit your ass in jail. You're going to be there for life. I don't care what you got to say. And you can get some mental help right there in prison. Going to a break. We come back. We're going to talk Tyler Perry wins a major award, the BET Awards. And I think the speech that he gave is going to go right alongside the one that Prince gave in 2000, the Soul Train Awards, where he said it's about owning and not being owned. That's next. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Where's your... All right, folks, HBCU Giving Day. Our university today is University of Maryland Eastern Shore, founded in 1886, located in Princess Anne, Maryland. Notable graduates include Art Shell, my alpha brother, saxophonist Clarence Clemens, Earl Christie, Clifford Brown, and many more. If you want to support the university financially, go to umes.edu. Graphic black up, please. umes.edu to support University of Maryland Eastern Shore, one of our HBCUs. They also have the only HBCU with a PGA school there. And so we're supposed to have the website up there, so I don't know what happened to it. But again, umes.edu. All right, folks, last night, BET Awards, the longest damn awards. I think it was longer than the Oscars, okay? I swear it felt like it was 9 hours. And one of the last awards they gave was to Tyler Perry, and it was the Icon Award. And I can tell you, he did not disappoint in the speech that he gave, which was so on point. I said, we've got to talk about it right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Go.
When I built my studio, I built it in a neighborhood that is one of the poorest black neighborhoods in Atlanta, so the young black kids could see that a black man did that and they can do it too. I was trying to help somebody cross. The studio was once a Confederate Army base, and I want you to hear this, which meant that there was Confederate soldiers on that base plotting and planning on how to keep 3.9 million Negroes enslaved. Now that land is owned by one Negro. It's all about trying to help somebody cross. While everybody was fighting for a seat at the table, talking about Oscar so white, I said, y'all go ahead and do that. But while you fighting for a seat at the table, I'll be down in Atlanta building my own. Because what I know for sure is that if I could just build this table, God would prepare it for me in the presence of my enemies. Rather than being an icon, I want to be an inspiration. So thank you, BET, my new family. Thank you, everybody. I want you to hear this. Every dreamer in this room, there are people whose lives are tied into your dream. Own your stuff. Own your business. Own your way. God bless you. Thank you, BET. Thank you, Scott. I love you guys. Thank you.
Karen, last year I had Tyler Perry speak at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention in Detroit, and I wanted him to emphasize that. But also I wanted him to emphasize that his empire was built by black people. That by serving your black audience, you don't have to cross over. Now, I'm not denigrating those who cross over, but I do believe what happens is we have taken, first of all a result of white supremacy, we have taken on this whole idea that we need to cross over. We need to have this sort of white base of fans as well in order for us to be able to get the things that we want in life. This is the second studio that Tyler Perry has built. He's got his private jet. He's got his mansions. He's got his millions. It is because he respected and served black people.
Yes. Listen, you've done it. You're doing it. I'm doing it. And if we're being honest, every major white institution builds off of the backs of us, whether we're talking about Fox Network or others, the music industry. They all build off of our energy that we end up getting pennies on a dollar for the thing that we built. So, you know, what he said, I wonder how many people jumping up and applauding are actually putting it into practice, building their runways, building their own tables in their own houses. It's a quote that I use all the time. I'm not fighting over crumbs. I'm a baker. I'm not fighting for a seat at your table. I'm a maker. And at the end of the day, everybody who's listening right now has the ability to create the future that they want to see. Tyler Perry is the blueprint. Roland Martin is doing it. I'm doing it. Are you willing to do it, or are you too afraid and not really confident in your abilities to actually create something from nothing?
Mildred,
But this is what we do.
Mildred, not just do it, but are you willing to support it? Because here's the deal. So when TV One canceled my show, December of 2017, one of the first things that we did was something called the State of Our Union. It was an idea that I conceived. I said, look, let's actually do our own discussion on the state of our union to counter Trump's speech. That was a result of Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, and others saying they were going to skip his State of the Union. I came up with that at the NAACP Image Awards. NAACP joined me. Congressman Benny Thompson said, great idea. Try to get the CBC involved, but they went ahead and attended the speech. It's another story. But here's what happened, and I've said this. I said it at NABJ. I'm not quite sure if I actually said it on this show. We were 1 hour, Mildred. We were 1 hour away from going live. I had just finished getting out of the makeup chair. My cell phone rings. I answer my cell phone, and the other end was Tyler Perry. And Tyler says, man, I'm watching you on YouTube right now. I'm watching some videos. Bruh, you're our voice. He said, please tell me you're working on something. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, Tyler, I am. I proceeded to tell him what I was working on. That is this show, Roland Martin Unfiltered. He said, I love the fact that you're doing independent. And so ever since then, we've struck a friendship. We talk all the time. We text all the time. We're looking at how we can work together. But what I keep saying to black people, Mildred, is you can't just say, hey, Roland, we praying for you. No, you also got to support financially, because if you didn't buy Tyler's tickets to his plays and to his movies, he couldn't build the studio. And so we also have to say, wait a minute, how am I supporting the folks who are also doing what we say we want to be done?
You're absolutely right, Roland. And there is no true freedom without independence. You can't be free working in somebody else's shop. Now, you can be gathering your resources to build while you're working in somebody else's shop, but there is no true freedom. And we need to understand that when we have our people owning businesses, it is those businesses that are hiring our heads of households, which make our families stronger and our community stronger. You have to put your money where your mouth is. That's essential.
Mo, but here's the other thing when we talk about also owning, and that is, and also then supporting. That is a direct result of building scale. And so what I mean by that, okay, Tyler could not build one studio and then build a second massive studio if he did not achieve scale. You achieve scale by being able to have the resources to build your platform, to market, and also grow it. Look, I know exactly what my vision is for this. My vision is not for this to be me as the only person hosting the show. No, my vision is to actually build a black digital content network. But that's scale. That's actually having other people doing multiple shows, which also requires resources. And I keep using this phrase, Mo, we have to fund our freedom. It's not enough to sit there right now and watch us on Periscope and watch us on Facebook and watch us on YouTube and then say, oh, well, somebody else send them $5 or $10 or $20 or $50. No, we have to fund our freedom.
Well, let me put it this way. As someone who's on a predominantly white station, it happens to be the #1 news talk station in America, but it's a predominantly white audience, and this speaks to me. Yes, we need to support each other, but we all have our different roles to play in that process. I'm a firm believer there needs to be someone in every room to open the door for everyone else and usher others into that room. But also, black folks got to remember, folks like me, we're not a sellout because we're on a predominantly white radio station or white network. We're making sure we can bring some other folks with us and maybe take over. I think we can, once again, it's a both and situation. We should have our own and take over theirs and make sure that there's a place for all of us to be along the way, because we all have a role to play. But we have to make sure that we don't only support the Roland Martins of the world, but we also have to support the Mo Kellys, because we believe in the same thing and we're working to the same end. And sometimes I think, or many times, we lose sight of that. We're not each other's enemy.
Well, absolutely. And look, Karen, when I was on CNN, I had my own company. And I was on Tom Joyner Morning Show, which was black-owned. I was doing TV One, which was black-owned, and I was doing both. But the key is, and this was the key, when I was at CNN, I did not think that CNN was better than TV One. I told them on election night 2008, I had to step off the set to do 2 or 3 hits on TV One. They were like, well, why? I said, because they paid me before y'all did. And I'm not going to dismiss them just because I'm on your air. And so, to Mo's point, we need folks in all places. But the other piece is we have to be able to have places where we absolutely are controlling our destiny, and we're not asking somebody else's permission, can I please go cover this black event or this black story?
Right. Or even have to explain why, right?
Right.
And the ice water is colder. I think that's over. I think we're in a generation. This generation is really understanding their value and their worth, and we're seeing it play out, whether we're looking at new billionaires being made like Jay-Z, or we're looking at the landscape of, folks like Chance the Rapper and Lil Nas X and others who are finding their capital and creating their own lanes. I think we're in a very special time right now. What Tyler Perry spoke to is an awakening that I think is reverberating throughout the country, throughout the world, because this is a global movement. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. And I'm glad that I'm watching this happen. I'm glad I'm alive for it.
And again, you go back to the speech that Prince gave in 2000 when he was recognized for Artist of the Decade. He essentially said the same thing when he said to own your masters. He said, look at these contracts you're signing and understand you're working for them. You should be working for yourself. And so we appreciate what Tyler Perry is doing. And to all the folks out there, again, if you want to support what we're doing, support us at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Become a member of our fan club. Again, you can give via Cash App, PayPal, Square. It doesn't matter. Some people are giving to us monthly. Some people are who are tithing monthly. Some people are giving to us once one payment. Doesn't matter. We need your support because, again, we want to be in a situation to be able to have much diverse conversations. I'm going to end this way with each one of you before I go to memoriam. Final thought. Whatever your final thought is, go. Mo.
I think this is a good beginning. I was warmed. My heart was warmed by what I heard from Tyler Perry, but it's a starting point. It was a great moment, but I hope we generate some momentum from that. People can't only hear it, but they have to act upon it and not wait for the next moment to come along. We need that momentum so we can turn it into a movement.
Final point on any topic. Mildred, whatever you want to say, go.
I just want to say that despite all the challenges we're facing in this country, this is a great moment for us all to be in. And it's incumbent upon all of us to seize the moment. There's a lot of work to be done, and each of us needs to stick up our buckets where we are and address that particular issue and never, ever be satisfied. And I hope you don't mind me asking the viewers to join me and follow me on Facebook at the Mildred Gaddis Show. Thank you.
Absolutely. Karen.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having this platform. And I want to also say we are our brothers' keepers. We're our brothers and sisters' keepers. And let's be mindful that we're stronger together. There are 300 million people in America, but globally we're 2 billion strong. We're the global majority. We're not minorities. We're not less than. We're not minor. We're greater than. And in many ways, we need to understand that to become the greatness that we need to see ourselves in.
First of all, Mo, when can people hear you on the radio?
Sure, you can find me at KFIAM640.com or MrMoKelly.com. My show, The Mo Kelly Show, is from 6 to 8 Saturdays and Sundays on West Coast time. And you can always hit me up on Twitter and Facebook at Mr. Mo Kelly.
Mildred.
Sunday mornings, Kiss FM 105.9, Detroit, WDMK.
All right then. And Karen.
Sirius XM Urban View 6 to 8. Excuse me, what am I doing? 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. 3 to 6. 3 to 6 every Monday through Friday on channel 126, which actually is the best.
Okay, then your Skype froze. You said actually is the best. Then it froze. All right. Mildred, Karen, Mo, I appreciate all of you joining us for our Radio's Talkers panel on this Monday. Thank you so very much. Folks, before we go, a couple of folks we have lost, and that is one of the last original members of the Tuskegee Airmen has died at the age of 99. Pilot Robert Friend flew 142 combat missions in World War II as part of the elite group of fighter pilots trained at Alabama's Tuskegee Institute. The program was created after the NAACP began challenging policies barring black people from flying military aircraft. He served for 28 years and retired as a lieutenant colonel to run his own aerospace company. His contributions to our history are greatly appreciated. We send our condolences to his family and all who loved him. Also, folks, New Orleans music and rock and roll pioneer Dave Bartholomew also passed away this weekend. He was 100 years old. Bartholomew discovered Fats Domino and is the man credited for helping to shape the sound and direction of both rhythm and blues and rock and roll, while indirectly helping shape, much later, rap. He, along with Fats Domino, wrote classics like Ain't That a Shame, I'm Walking, and Let the Four Winds Blow. He is a member of the Songwriters Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Bartholomew's legacy will continue to live on through his music. And also, folks, I want to pull up my man here. So we also lost a journalist on Friday out of Houston, Max Edison. He worked for the Houston Defender, longtime radio talk show host in Houston. He passed away on Friday at the age of 63. Friday also happened to be his birthday. And many of us, of course, were shocked by the loss of Max. He had a heart condition. This here is his Twitter feed, and this was a photo that he had posted, folks, just this month, a few days ago. This is him with his son at a Houston Astros baseball game. And he posted this on June 16th, just 8 days ago. Max was a great journalist. He was a great guy. I used to be the managing editor of the Houston Defender, and Max always listened to us on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. When, of course, we would finish I would get done with my segment. I would often have a text message from Max waiting for me. He would watch the show all the time. And again, certainly sad to see the loss of Max Edison. This here is a graphic that was put together by the Houston Defender. Max Edison, he was the Defender College and Pro Sports editor. And again, born June 21st, 1956, and he died June 21st, 2019, at the age of 63. And again, he turned 63 on Friday, the same day he passed away. And so certainly our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Max Edison. All right, folks, again, our show is done for the day. We want you to join our Bring the Funk fan club. This is your way of supporting Roland Martin Unfiltered. One of the things that you get by being a member of the fan club, discounts, of course, the products that we have on RolandSMartin.com, including books and other things along those lines. What you can do is go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com to join the fan club. If you've already joined and you have not gotten your discount code, send us an email and we'll be sure to get it to you. And again, you can join by paying Cash App, by paying Square, by being able to pay PayPal as well. And again, every dollar you have that you contribute goes to support this show and our broadcast as we travel all around the country. We've got some great things happening in the month of July. We'll be attending the Essence Festival, also the NAACP Convention, National Urban League as well. In August, National Association of Black Journalists. And so we've got an absolutely packed schedule, folks, and we want you to make it possible. Our goal is to get 1,000 new fan club members by the end of June. So we have just a few days left, and so we want you guys to join right now and saying go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com and sign up today because, hey, look, you heard what Tyler Perry had to say. if you can't own it, if your folks also don't support it, which means we've got to fund our freedom. This is about us. This is about not asking somebody else, can we please go cover this? Can we do this? No, this is about us controlling our destiny and also employing African Americans and giving them a shot in the media field. All right, folks, I shall see you guys tomorrow. Holla! You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. Yes, I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards, he will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble, because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it messes me up every single time. So I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? The blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.